A CRN original.
Attention, you are about to hear the captivating voice of an icon in the movie industry. You have heard him and seen him in performances in over 140 films. He's met and influenced many world leaders, and now he's about to tell you how to unite the America he loves.
That job's filled.
Unique.
Brilliant. And unpredictable. Robert Davi is a Renaissance man who writes, directs, sings, and does it all with excellence.
Yes, okay, we're all very impressed, but let's get on with it now.
Robert Davi believes he should use his voice to both repay and help unite America, the America that made his dreams come true.
No more Mr. Nice Guy.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Robert Davi Show. Hello, friends. Mike Garey once again sitting in for Robert Davi on assignment. How's he doing, Nick? You heard from him?
He's doing pretty good. He's saying things are going pretty well. He said it's actually really pretty out there in Serbia, which, you know, is really cool. I'd like to go to Serbia. Thanks for the invite, Dad. But yeah, anyways, he's doing really good. Everything's going to his plan so far. So far, so good. We're going to hear about that mission to Serbia that's underway right now. Serbia is actually, supposed to be a beautiful country. Really good basketball over there in Serbia. Long tradition of great basketball. Some breaking news here, folks. SB 8, Texas SB 8, otherwise known as the Texas Heartbeat Law, which was legislation voted on, passed by the Texas legislature, and then signed by Governor Greg Abbott, which would limit abortions up to 6 to 8 weeks or whenever a fetal heartbeat is detected, hence the name, the Heartbeat Bill. Of course, this was seen by many as a direct challenge to Roe v. Wade. And right now, the Supreme Court, SCOTUS, has decided to hear the case of a challenge to that law, a challenge brought by the federal government. It's going to be the United States of America versus the state of Texas. You never want to see that on a docket, but that's what's happening. Also, the Biden administration sought to get a TRO, a temporary restraining order, to stop this law from being in effect, but the law will stand until oral arguments will be heard and the Supreme Court will issue a decision. Now, we're not going to make any judgments about abortion on this show, about the morality of abortion or its larger implications. What I do want to talk about, just briefly, is about states' rights. And as someone that considers himself a centrist Democrat, I often get guff from my liberal brothers and sisters about the fact that I do believe that the framers intended this system, this constitutional system we have here in the United States, to be loosely decentralized, where the state governments would have far more power than the federal government. If you read the Federalist Papers, you just kind of study the early founding of this country. The federal government was never intended to have the kind of scope of powers it does now. Over the last 200 years, we've seen that system that the framers envisioned, which would be the federal government was pretty much here to adjudicate disputes between the states. They weren't initially supposed to levy taxes. Initially, the tax system in this country was set up through apportionment, where particular states, based on population, would collect taxes and then send that money to the federal government so the federal government can cover costs such as the national defense in a bare-bones federal structure. This not only gave the federal government limited powers, but also gave state governments, through the legislature, these state legislatures, the power of the purse, another check and balance on the federal government. Not only do we have the bicameral system where we have 2 senators per state, so there is a check on more populous and more profitable states imposing their will on other states, less populous states. But to put a check on that, we have the House of Representatives, seats based on population. And that power of the purse, that tax policy versus appropriation, was supposed to have a third check of the power of the purse, where if a particular state didn't like certain policies that the federal government was engaged in, they could keep their money in their bank. not pay for it. But over the years, ever since 1803, Marbury versus Madison, Chief Justice Marshall unilaterally made the decision that the Supreme Court can invalidate federal law. It's policy of judicial review. Fast forward 55 years, 60 years, we have the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, which now allows the federal government to invalidate state laws. Federal government sees or decides that a state law they don't like, they can say, hey, this violates the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. Therefore, this law is invalid. Also, the incorporation doctrine. That's another legal precedent that came forth during the 30s, where the Bill of Rights, the federal Bill of Rights, is now incorporated into the states. That was never the founders' intention. Initially, the United States Constitution, the Bill of Rights, was a document that limited federal powers, that says, you guys can't do this. You can't abridge free speech. The Congress of the United States, Congress shall make no law, First Amendment. That there is a right to bear arms. That you do not have to quarter troops. That you do have a right to not self-incriminate yourself, so on and so forth. I believe that the system of government we have right now, where federal government is the most powerful government in the nation, I think is a little bit flawed. I think if states want to enact certain policies, they should be able to do that. I don't agree necessarily with this Texas SB 8, but the voters of Texas, through representational democracy, they put those representatives in the House. They have elected Governor Greg Abbott handily. This is what they want to do. If you don't want to live in Texas, you have freedom of movement. You can move out of Texas. But this case is moving forward. This challenge to SB 8 is going to be, I think, a seminal case. Probably the most seminal vis-a-vis abortion since that 1973 Roe versus Wade decision. We're also going to see another case that's going to come to the Supreme Court regarding the Second Amendment, New York Pistol Association versus State of New York. That's going to have implications for the Second Amendment. The court we have right now is a 6-3 conservative majority. So the rubber's going to meet the road with this test, with these two Supreme Court cases, two seminal cases about two of the most divisive issues in this country, abortion and Second Amendment rights. Now, if you're a strict constructionalist, you don't want the court deciding these cases. Congress should make law. If the will of the people is that abortion should be legal nationwide without restriction, it's not up to the Supreme Court to make that decision. It's up to the United States Congress to make that decision. I mean, it's the government we have right now. But Congress, especially in the House of Representatives, they have to run every 2 years. If you're in a swing district, it's far easier to let Congress make the tough calls. Or check that, to make the Supreme Court make the tough calls. The Supreme Court, they're not elected. They have lifetime appointments. There's no political consequences for any decision they make. And so it's become strategic. Where the U.S. Congress, the House of Representatives, and the Senate are not going to vote on divisive legislation. You think this infrastructure bill is a sticky wicket right now? Wait until they start debating abortion rights vis-a-vis that due process clause. But they'll never do that. Why would they do that? They can just let the Supreme Court make the decision and opine about that. This great guy I know, he wrote a book called America: An Illusion of Freedom. He's an attorney, he's a constitutional scholar. I don't agree with him pretty much about anything about politics. But he makes a valid and compelling case about what I just said, about America is an illusion of freedom. Because Congress doesn't make law anymore. They spend money.
That's about it.
That's about it. They don't make law, which is their constitutional duty. Article 1, Section 1. And that's why we see this when Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. The sky was falling. It's the end of the republic. We're going to have conservative Supreme Court. Shouldn't matter if we have a conservative or liberal Supreme Court. First of all, the court should not be political, even though they are.
Yeah. If anything, multiple parties are just going to separate us more. But anyways.
You can't blame them, though. You can't blame the Supreme Court. It's Congress. And they do this on purpose. They know. It's a game. We're not going to make any tough calls. Why should we? It's too dangerous. We got a cushy gig here. I make $174,000 a year. A nice cushy lobbying job lined up. This is for both parties. Best thing the Supreme Court could do is kick this case back. Kick it back to the prior jurisdiction. And they've done this in other cases too. They said, hey, we're not touching this. We're not touching this with a 10-foot pole. You want to do something about this? Write a law. It's Congress. We didn't elect you to go on camera. We didn't elect you to write books. We elected you to make law. That's your job. You're a lawmaker. Davi, be right back.
Have you heard about Vine to Bar chocolate? It's the winemaker's chocolate, the world's first chocolate made with well-vined Chardonnay marc from the beautiful coastal vineyards of North America. Gently pressed grapes are harvested after juicing, dried and finely milled and carefully blended into the finest dark chocolate. The Chardonnay marc contains highly beneficial grape nutrients, flavanols, and has a natural sweetness that flavors the luscious dark chocolate. Mouth-watering, flavorful, delectable dark chocolate goodness with Chardonnay sweetness and beneficial nutrients. And it's alcohol-free, too. It's Vine to Bar chocolate. Order some today at vinetobar.com. That's VINETOBAR.com. Cold shipped to your door, it's Vine to Bar. Vine to Bar chocolate. Visit us at vinetobar.com.
Keep listening for a free offer from US Med. If you're living with diabetes and using insulin, you know the pain of sticking your fingers over and over again. By simply wearing a small remote device called a continuous glucose monitor, or CGM, you can reduce the pain of sticking your fingers right away. If you're testing your blood sugar daily and administering insulin 3 or more times per day, or using an insulin pump, call today and learn about the latest CGM technology. We'll send you a free ebook telling you all you need to know about CGMs. A CGM can immediately reduce pain. It's accurate, easy to use, and helps you make better diabetes treatment decisions. Your new CGM may be covered by Medicare or private insurance. Call now to learn more. 800-524-9313. 800-524-9313. That's 800-524-9313.
For the getaway of your dreams, come to Hawaii's Playground, Ka'anapali Beach Resort, on the fun side of Maui, where the world comes to play. Find your spot on Ka'anapali Beach with 3 miles of white sand, 12 resort properties, 2 golf courses, and 2 shopping centers. Enjoy the playground of Hawaii's ancient royalty. Ka'anapali Beach Resort is Hawaii's original master planned destination resort and home of the Hawaii Food and Wine Festival. With views of 2 neighboring islands, you can breathe in the land's natural beauty from your favorite resort or golf fairway. Come experience Ka'anapali's own special brand of Hawaiian hospitality with world-class dining, relaxing resorts, water sports, and activities of every kind. For romantic, family, and great friend getaways, discover the options of Ka'anapali Beach Resort, where the world comes to play. Plan your getaway today. Visit Ka'anapaliResort.com. That's KAANAPALI Resort.com.
Robert Davi.
I want you to know this is nothing personal. It's purely business.
We're back, Robert Davi Show. Robert Davi out on assignment. Serbia. Should be back shortly. Hopefully he'll bring us some gifts.
Hopefully some like Serbian pastries.
Yeah,
or
some
something.
Serbian delicacies.
Yes, that would be awesome.
Maybe some caviar from the Caspian or something like that. That'd be nice. So, let's talk about an issue that has been percolating these past couple years and that has affected a lot of communities. Let's talk about the opioid crisis. Just recently, sadly, tragically, Jimmy Hayes, he was a hometown hero of Boston, a BC grad, an NHL player, passed away. It's just in the latest of high-profile athletes, celebrities who have died from an accidental fentanyl overdose.
Yeah, it's so sad. It happened on his son's second birthday, too.
That's terrible. That is absolutely awful.
Either his son's first or second birthday, yeah. It's terrible, man.
And he passed away of an accidental fentanyl overdose from fentanyl-laced cocaine. Just about several weeks ago, at a party in Newport Beach, several high-profile comedians overdosed on fentanyl-laced cocaine, leaving two of them dead. Tom Petty, dead of a fentanyl overdose.
It's crazy.
Michael Jackson died of fentanyl overdose.
Did Whitney Houston die as well from fentanyl overdose? Or was that she just took too much stuff?
I'm not aware of that, but quite possibly. Prince died of a fentanyl overdose. Mac Miller,
man. A lot of people were so sad about that. My sister, cried.
I remember when he died.
Yeah.
I was in one of my grad school classes, and a lot of the students were disconsolate. Fentanyl overdoses and the opioid overdoses in general have killed more people, more Americans this year than were killed in all our previous wars, excluding Gulf War I, Gulf War II, and Afghanistan. 48,000 Americans died of opioid overdoses last year. Combined with the death toll of COVID, the average life expectancy due to COVID and the opioid epidemic has brought the average lifespan of the American down. How did we get here? What's to be done? It's kind of two scenarios we see a lot of with this, I would call the third wave of the opioid addiction crisis here in America. The first wave was in the early 50s and 60s when we first saw opioids, synthetic and processed heroin, come into the culture. Mostly it was on the coasts, amongst jazz musicians, actors, celebrities, so on and so forth. Later on, in the 70s, the second wave, due to globalization, we saw cheap and pure processed heroin come from mostly Southwest Asia, less pure, even more cheap, black tar heroin coming from South America. Two scenarios here. You hear this a lot. And some of the reporting about Mr. Hayes speaks to this, where you tear your ACL, you have a back injury, you get prescribed hydrocodone.
I did read some stuff about that from past injuries from playing hockey. He was taking some pills, some painkillers, which is really, I think that happens to a lot more athletes than we probably know of. I think there's a lot out there right now that are playing.
I can't tell you how many stories I've heard from grieving parents who've lost children to opioid overdoses, who say it started with an injury was prescribed an opiate-based painkiller, Oxycontin, hydrocodone, Vicodin, whatnot. That led to an addiction. That led to overprescription. Then that led to black market. And then that led to illegal opioids, heroin, fentanyl, whatnot. Second scenario is, and what we've seen with Mr. Hayes and these comedians and others, is fentanyl is now becoming the key active mixing ingredient, cutting agent, you might say, of illicit drugs such as cocaine, such as heroin, because it's economics, folks.
It's very scary.
Fentanyl's effectiveness is measured in micrograms. Go online right now and you can see a photo of how much fentanyl it takes to kill an adult. And it's literally like a couple grains of sand. They have a penny next to it for scale. And it's just like a couple grains. It's like almost a couple grains of salt. And so if you have heroin, and you got your kilo of heroin, you can sprinkle some fentanyl on there and then add another kilo of baby powder. And now you got 2 kilos of heroin. You've just doubled your money. There's a great documentary on Netflix. It's about the... check that out. It's on HBO Max. It's about the opioid addiction and about how systematic failures, starting in the healthcare industry itself, has trickled down to lead to this where we are now. Pain management. The pain clinic. I never heard about a pain clinic. But pain management through Purdue Pharma and others... Before, pain was seen as an indicator of a broader health problem. Pain was a good thing. It was a diagnostic tool. And I know people who've lived in chronic pain. It's terrible. But the overprescription of opioid-based painkillers is one of the great crimes in this country. I believe that the Sackler family, the owner of Purdue Pharma, the manufacturers of Oxycontin, recently just settled with the federal government for billions of dollars. That money's going to be used for opioid education. But the question I want to get to, and we're going to talk more about this in the next segment, is how do we overcome this? I mean, 48,000 Americans dead from opioid overdoses just last year alone. That should be a national crisis. And it was. It was a major campaign issue, but COVID knocked that off the map. There's a lot of talk about control, about this is the reason why we need more secure borders to stop this fentanyl coming over to the United States. That's an argument. We can have that discussion. But folks, if there wasn't a demand for illicit drugs in this country, a staggering demand, $1 billion demand, would we have this problem? Why is this uniquely American? We're going to talk about that right after the break. Stick around. Davi, be right back.
I'm Al Simon, 91 years young. I created Balance 7 20 years ago. At 67, I went to see the doctor for the first time in my life and found that I had medical problems. He told me that was normal for my age. I don't believe God intended us to be sick and old. I decided to find something to bring my health back. For 10 years, I studied pH and how important it is to the human system. Balance 7 gave me back what I lost by getting older. I no longer get out of bed with a joint discomfort. Balance 7 can do for you what it has done for me and many others. In 3 days' time, you'll feel more energy, less joint discomfort, and clarity of thinking. No doctor or hospital can do what Balance 7 can do for you. Balance 7 is the key to unlocking the healthy immune system. Bring your body back to balance. Order now. Receive free shipping with the code word AL. Go to balance7.com. That's balance7.com. Order now and get your free shipping and a free gift with your order. Go to balance7.com. Use the code word AL.
If Ernest Hemingway was alive today, would he say this to you?
Shakespeare, Mark Twain, Edgar Allan Poe, all great writers. And after reading your book, I simply must add you to the list.
Wait, you don't have a book yet. So make a free call to Page Publishing. Their expert staff can help you turn your book idea into a real book, a masterpiece that could someday make the bestseller list in hard copy and digitally all across the world. Page Publishing can help you completely take your idea for a book, write it, and publish it. So if you want to join the ranks of some of the most famous authors in the world, call now for a free information kit. Turn your book idea into publishing gold. Make a free call right now to Page Publishing.
800-378-3212. 800-378-3212. 800-378-3212. That's 800-378-3212.
Do you want to fly somewhere, anywhere in the world? Smart travelers call myflightsearch.com for the best deals on flight tickets. Going to Manila, Bangkok, London, how about Singapore? Call myflightsearch.com for the lowest flight tickets available. What about a local vacation? Let's say you want to fly to Vegas, Orlando, Miami, Los Angeles, or Denver. Pick up the phone and call myflightsearch.com right now. We have exclusive deals that you can't find anywhere else. The only way you can get these low airline prices is by calling us. We have so many low prices available, we can't possibly tell them to you right here and now. If you're flying somewhere anytime in the next 6 months and you want the lowest airline ticket prices anywhere, you owe it to yourself to save a ton of money. So pick up your cell phone and call myflightsearch.com right now.
Call 800-445-3166. 800-445-3166. That's 800-445-3166. Call now. 800-445-3166.
These are the sounds of Columbo's Italian Steakhouse and Jazz Club.
Look at this ribeye. Did you see that ribeye?
Fantastic. Incredible.
This is delicious.
Sausage and lentil soup, special today. Very, very good.
Look at this garlic bread. Best garlic bread I ever had.
And here's Vic Perino, owner and operator of Columbo's.
A lot of the Italian recipes are my uncle's own recipes. We have a lot of people coming back for his hand-rolled lasagna. We make it basically from scratch. I think ours is exceptional.
Here's Vic on what makes Columbo's different than any other Italian restaurant.
The other thing that sets us apart from other Italian restaurants is that we're an Italian steakhouse. We specialize in our steaks.
Plus, there's more.
We have entertainment 7 nights a week. So they're coming for a lot of reasons to value. Their value per dollar that they're getting, plus coming into a neighborhood-friendly place. Sometimes we're actually accused of being the melting pot of Eagle Rock.
Columbo's in Eagle Rock on Colorado Boulevard, 323-254-9138. Manja.
The Robert Davi Show.
This is authentic. Una furtiva lacrima negli occhi.
And we are back. Sierra Digital Talk Radio, SierraTalk.com. Speaking to the opioid crisis here in this country, the fentanyl crisis. Where's the government in all this? Yeah, they could fine the Sackler family for deceptive practices regarding the marketing and overprescription of OxyContin. That they knew that the formula of OxyContin, which was a extremely powerful opioid-based painkiller, that the safety mechanisms in place, the coating on that pill itself, which would allow for a delayed reaction, which would make it far less addictive, that they knew, going back for years, that opioid addicts would just crush the tablet.
I think they've always known that, because, I mean, how can you not?
These are multi-billion-dollar pharmaceutical companies with billion-dollar research programs. They know.
They've been through it all before.
Why haven't they scheduled one, though? OxyContin. History lesson. Quaaludes. Quaaludes were invented by an Indian biochemist used as a sleep aid in the 50s. It became known that you take some Quaaludes, and if you avoid the urge to sleep, that you would get a hell of a buzz. Quaaludes were the go-to recreational prescription drug all through the 70s and the 80s. The United States government realized what was going on, so they scheduled one them. Can't even buy them anymore.
Did anyone die from Quaaludes?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Not nearly to the effect of the opioid-based painkillers, but is it the government's job to do that? I mean, alcohol is legal. Alcohol probably kills more people per year based on accidents, drunk driving, also chronic health effects. Smoking.
Yeah.
What should be legal and what should not be legal? Is it the government's job? The libertarian argument out there is that all drugs should be legal. Personal responsibility. I'm not buying that.
I don't know about all drugs. Like, come on, you're totally not thinking of other people if you think everything should be legalized. Yeah, I think some things should be, but there's a lot of things out there that really hurt people, that kill people instantly. There's things that destroy families too.
Well, like the counter argument would be is that, well, if, like for example, if cocaine was legal and then marketed and tested and delivered safely through large corporations with regulation, that we wouldn't have these fentanyl overdoses.
Could be.
But folks, we've seen this here in California and a lot of other states that have legalized recreational marijuana. People are still buying it on the black market.
Because of the taxes.
Because of taxes. Or just because of habit. They've been buying it from the same guy for 20 years. They're going to just keep buying from this guy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, where's the line? I mean, if alcohol is legal, if tobacco is legal, and if now marijuana is legal, what's to stop?
I think... I believe things like opioids, heroin, cocaine, acid. I feel like most of those should be illegal.
Be illegal.
Yeah, I think most of them.
The hard drugs. Hard drugs should be illegal.
Those, because most of the people are going to argue and say that acid's not bad for you. It doesn't kill anybody.
I don't know about that.
But that's not. It fries people's brains.
It sure does. If you know anybody who's done a lot of acid, they are not the same person they were before.
At all.
If you know a lot of people,
they're completely gone.
They're completely gone. If you know a lot of people who have done a lot of MDMA, they lose their ability to feel pleasure.
Yeah, I knew this girl who sat in front of me in one of my English classes, or history classes, I can't remember. But she would crack her back, like in her chair, like in this weird way, like all the time, and like her head would be like she would be looking at me like behind her. It was weird. And I'd be like, why do you always do that? And she's like, it always makes me like have an acid like flashback or whatever. Because if you look it up,
it's
LSD,
in the
acid,
spinal fluid.
Gets stuck in your spinal cord. And it's just, she's, I don't know where she is nowadays. I hope she's all right, but she was not doing too well.
There's also a study too. I mean, methamphetamine is, we don't talk about that because the opioid addiction crisis kind of knocked that out of the media. But methamphetamine psychosis, there was this recent study right now about homelessness in Los Angeles, and a large homeless population here is pretty much rendered unemployable because of long-term methamphetamine use.
It's got similar things to acid, even though it's different. It still really affects your brain.
Scientists have also said that the methamphetamine addiction is probably one of the hardest addictions to overcome. That the relapse rate of methamphetamine addiction is far and away higher than cocaine, heroin, or other illicit drugs. But going back to legality, I have family members who would never think of taking illicit drugs. Never illegal drugs. Ever. But they found several doctors to prescribe them Valium, Vicodin, hydrocodone, legal prescription drugs.
Yeah, I had to take Vicodin when I got my wisdom teeth taken out.
Mm-hmm.
What? Yeah, it helped, but...
Pain management.
Those things sucked. I didn't like those, the way they made me feel. Terrible. I don't even understand why people like this stuff. It makes you feel like pretty poopy. Like poop.
I don't have an answer to that, Nick. But, I mean, I know people that...
I know addiction's a disease.
It is a disease, for sure. And, I know people with terrible prescription drug problems that are legally prescribed these drugs.
Yeah. And, It's got to make it insanely hard to kick it.
So now that this puts the onus on the healthcare system rather than the addict themselves. It's a supply side problem. We're not going to never be able to get every American to stop using drugs. They tried that. The Just Say No campaign.
And they're not going to want to do that.
No.
They make too much money.
And the addict, I mean, if you ever know anybody in recovery, you can't get somebody who does not want to get clean. You got to hit that bottom. And even if you hit that bottom, sometimes you got to hit that bottom several times.
There's only so much someone can do for you, you know? You got to let people learn lessons on their own sometimes.
That's why I'm against large-scale legalization. But we have de facto large-scale legalization right now because of this pain management cycle where opioid-based painkillers and also benzodiazepines, you know, mood alterers like Valiums and Xanax and all that, they're prescribed legally. And the quandary, the conundrum is, who is the valid patient who needs this? Like the cancer patient, the person with crippling agoraphobia and anxiety who can't go outside unless they have a Xanax. Do we let them suffer to protect others who would abuse?
No, but there's gotta be better ways.
How though? How do you make that distinction? I mean, what you're doing is you're turning every pharmacist and every general practitioner, every doctor in there to an addiction counselor as well. How do they know what's drug-seeking behavior and what's not?
Yeah, I think they probably already found a way. It's just like, I don't know, it's conspiracy theory, but just like cancer, people say they found the cure, but they make so much money off of chemo that why release the cure? Why get rid of opioids?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
I guess
if that's what's going through their minds, but who knows, man? This is a crazy world.
I guess I have kind of a greater faith in America in also the altruism of the healthcare system, the individual healthcare providers, but I could be wrong. All I know is that this is decimated communities, especially rural communities, especially communities that are already in peril, these Rust Belt communities. Great documentary out there, The Wild Whites of West Virginia. It's available right now on Amazon Prime. And it shows the terrible wrath on which prescription drug addiction can do to a community. We don't have answers necessarily. We're just asking questions. Davi, be right back.
Have you heard about Vine to Bar chocolate? It's the winemaker's chocolate, the world's first chocolate made with well-vined Chardonnay marc from the beautiful coastal vineyards of North America. Gently pressed grapes are harvested after juicing, dried and finely milled and carefully blended into the finest dark chocolate. The Chardonnay marc contains highly beneficial grape nutrients, flavonols, and has a natural sweetness that flavors the luscious dark chocolate. Mouth-watering, flavorful, delectable dark chocolate goodness with Chardonnay sweetness and beneficial nutrients. And it's alcohol-free, too. It's Vine to Bar chocolate. Order some today at vinetobar.com. That's VINETOBAR.com. Cold shipped to your door, it's Vine to Bar. Vine to Bar chocolate. Visit us at vinetobar.com.
What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it, you could junk it, or you could donate it to Heritage for the Blind. Your car will be towed away for free, and your donation is tax deductible. Just call 1-800-785-9618. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if your vehicle runs or not. It will be towed away for free, and you'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a nonprofit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car, and as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now, 1-800-785-9618. Donating is easy, and your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-785-9618. That's 1-800-785-9618.
Hi, my name is Lily. My mom and dad used to fight about money all the time. Then one day, I heard them talking about this guy, some uncle I never knew, called Uncle Sam. Well, they say this Uncle Sam guy wanted them to pay him like $1 gazillion, and they didn't have $1 gazillion. So they called this company they heard on the radio called the Tax Doctor. And the Tax Doctor worked with Uncle Sam's people. I think they're called the IRS. And they were able to work it out so my mom and dad didn't have to pay Uncle Sam very much money at all. So now mom and dad are happy, and I'm happy too. Thanks, Tax Doctor.
If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state, call now and pay less. 800-391-8713. 800-391-8713. That's 800-391-8713.
The Robert Davi Show.
Mike? You let me down, Mike. You're making me look bad. Thought we had an understanding. And all I expect is a little cooperation!
Sorry, Robert.
And we're back, Robert Davi Show. Thank you so much, Mike Garey sitting in. Robert Davi out on assignment. As always, you can get this as podcast. It's high-quality broadcast as podcast on anywhere you get your podcasts, the Robert Davi Show podcast. Also, you can say, hey, Alexa, play the Robert Davi Show podcast, and voila, right there. Anybody out there who's listening who has struggled with addiction or is currently struggling with addiction, please reach out to a non-profit addiction treatment facility. There's also all sorts of resources you can take advantage of via phone, via computer. 12-step programs, they work for a lot of people. I know a lot of people's lives have been changed through 12-step programs, Narcotics Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous. It's not for everybody, but it works for a lot of people. So if you are struggling, please reach out because people care about you. People want to get you that help.
That's another thing that confuses me. Like, yeah, there's a reason people that, you know, unfortunately have the disease of addiction, they do all these drugs and stuff. But it's always confused me how they always look at the ones that truly love them and they think that they don't love them. But
it's
tough sometimes.
It really is. It really is. I mean, I look at that with the homeless crisis. I mean, drugs notwithstanding, and mental illness notwithstanding, is a whole different thing. But a lot of people, you know, they like, why don't these people just go home to their families that you see on these overpasses living in these tents? They look pretty able-bodied.
Some of them don't have families.
A lot of them don't have families, but a lot of them are engaged in terrible schisms with their families over drugs and alcohol.
Yeah, pretty much meaning they've been banished by their family.
Exactly. Yeah, you can stay here. The only thing I ask is you don't do drugs in the house.
Then they do it.
And they're gone. Yeah. I mean, because these parents, you know, these family members, these are even friends. You know, I knew a guy, a buddy of mine. He had really bad addiction problems, really bad prescription pill and alcohol addiction problems. He got kicked out of his house. He wanted to come stay with me. I told him, I'm like, look, dude, you can stay here for 1 week and 1 week only. Because I knew what was going to happen. You got 1 week to get your stuff together. And he's got to come home from work. He'd be on the couch. Come home the next day on the couch.
Yeah, man, it's tough.
And that fractured our relationship. All right. Sad story out of New Mexico, folks. We have to cover this. Usually I like to use this last segment for something fun. This is not so much fun. A really terrible accident has happened on a film set in New Mexico with Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin, this is a film that he's currently shooting.
A Western called Rust.
Rust, exactly, which he's also an executive producer on.
She, the lady that was killed was the cinematographer.
Yes.
I think her name, her name was Helena Hutchins.
Helena Hutchins, cinematographer, was tragically killed, as well as another production assistant was wounded, involving a prop gun.
Scary.
Latest reporting is saying that a prop gun, which apparently in this case was actual functional firearm, was handed to Mr. Baldwin, and we're not sure whether or not this is during a rehearsal or actually during a take. This prop gun was handed Mr. Baldwin with live rounds.
Which should not be a thing ever. I mean, have you heard of a prop gun being not a prop gun?
I have,
it's supposed to be a prop gun.
Yes, it's actually quite common for actual real firearms to be used as prop guns. Most of the time, though,
they don't have live bullets.
They don't have live bullets, but even more so, they don't have a functional firing pin.
Yeah.
And so the gun and the firearm is rendered inert.
That's what makes no sense to me, is that obviously, I mean, someone had to know that this gun was locked and loaded. And that goes back to the prop guy. Because the prop guys on set, they're always very keen about people touching their things and like, oh, you can't have this prop just yet. You got to wait for, this. On this day, I can give this to you. And usually when they do that, like say it's a gun, the prop guy will have everybody's attention. He'll be like, everybody listen up. This is a prop gun. It's obviously, it's got nothing in it. It's empty. See this? Pull the trigger. Nothing's in there. It's empty. But still just got to be safe. Safety precautions. You got to be safe around it. No one can touch this besides this specific actor. And yeah, but it's crazy to me how they just let that happen, like get in the hands of Alec Baldwin, and he doesn't know that it has live rounds. I mean, obviously, if the man knew it had live rounds, he's not going to shoot anybody in the face.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how live rounds even got on set.
It goes back to the prop guy.
Apparently so, and it should be noted, IETSE, who we talked about, I believe, last week because of some labor strife that they were having, which apparently has been settled. IETSE released a statement saying that this was not a union shoot, that no IETSE union prop master was involved in this, that this was a local crew, not subject to IETSE union rules. Now, I think the conspiracy theory is going to start here. Now, I don't, this is and Mr. Baldwin released a statement. There is no words to convey my shock and sadness regarding the tragic accident that took the life of Helena Hutchins, a wife, mother, and deeply admired colleague of ours. I'm fully cooperating with the police investigation to address how this tragedy occurred.
I feel really bad for Alec Baldwin, too. Yeah. Not only the family, obviously, but think about it. Every single article you see when you search up Alec Baldwin's name, it just says, Alec Baldwin fatally shoots someone on set of Rust, not even explaining anything. So
not even accident. You know what they don't put in the copy either is Alec Baldwin accidentally shoots a colleague on set.
Yeah, so he's probably got hate coming for no reason, even though this isn't really his fault.
J.D. Vance, just as an aside, J.D. Vance, who I find despicable, he wrote Hillbilly Elegy, which is a trash book. I'm sorry if you liked it, which was later made into a feature film. Who's now actually positioning himself to run for Senate in Ohio as a Trump surrogate. He released a tweet this morning in response to this news saying, at Twitter, at Jack, who Jack owns Twitter, it says, please reinstate Donald Trump's account. I want my Alec Baldwin jokes.
Are you serious?
I'm serious, folks. Look it up.
It's not the time for comedy,
Not the time. Just as it was, we talked about the Colin Powell takes coming from the left. Now the similar takes, terrible takes, are coming from the right about Alec Baldwin and this tragic situation. I remember this happened before years ago, and this was even scarier because this happened to Brandon Lee, Bruce Lee's son.
Yeah, The Crow.
During The Crow.
Right.
During The Crow.
I forgot about that.
Yes, Brandon Lee was tragically killed on the set, mid-production of The Crow, and they actually released the film. And that situation was a little bit different. This was a prop gun, actual functional firearm, that was brought from, and there's always been talk about the curse of Bruce Lee because he died young. And his son Brandon was killed in circumstances that are even stranger than this Alec Baldwin situation. The circumstances about Brandon Lee is that the firearm in question didn't have a live round in it, but it actually had a bullet in the barrel, not a cartridge, but just the bullet itself. How it got there, no one really knows. Some people say that it was a misfire on the range the last time the firearm was used and it wasn't cleaned properly. So when the blanks were loaded into that prop gun on the set of The Crow, the force of the blank, a blank is just a cartridge with powder with no bullet.
Still going to be, yeah. So
be loud.
Bullet, technically, it was just a live bullet.
It's a blank is, like I said, cartridge, powder, primer, no bullet.
Yeah.
So you get the bang, you get the sick look at the action, but no bullet leaving. But apparently there's a bullet lodged in the barrel of this firearm, and so de facto became a live round. A lot of conspiracies about that, whether the Yakuza was behind it, whether there's some supernatural curse, whatnot. But folks, look to the future regarding this Alec Baldwin story on whether or not this might have been some act of sabotage. Either for Alec Baldwin personally, someone had a grudge against him because he's got pretty out there political views.
Yeah.
He can be known to be a little bit hard to work with too. But also the story that I'm kind of seeing to bubble up, and I'm hesitant to report this, but I'm just saying what's people are talking about, is perhaps that this was a message to the non-union crew. That this was perhaps a militant union member doing something sketchy to make the non-union crew look bad, quite possibly not intending anybody to get hurt.
That's crazy to think about, though.
That's the kind of the story that's because we live here in Hollywood, and so they've been covering this pretty nonstop, and there's been some whispers about that. I mean, it's really hard to tell the film industry to treat firearms as that you're supposed to treat firearms, that you never point a firearm unless you intend to pull the trigger, that all guns are loaded all the time, no matter what.
Yeah.
You gotta check the action. You gotta keep.
Obviously, the safety precautions were not followed there. Obviously.
Like, so I wonder how this is going. Are we going to see wholesale change? Are we going to see perhaps the elimination of practical effects vis-a-vis firearms on film sets, and it'll all go digital?
Maybe they just start to use just plastic guns, because I do know they use plastic weapons.
Yeah, but for a period piece like this, or the director or the producer or the writer or even the star for that matter really has in their mind, I want this particular make and model of firearm, and they don't have that particular make and model as a mold.
Well, when it comes to that, that's tough. That's going to be a lot of money too for a prop, but it is a road they can go down if they want to take the safety precautions now, is to make the weapon that you want. Just make it custom made with a clogged barrel, so there's nothing that can even come out of it or go in. Where they clog it with metal, but anyways, we're running out of time.
I don't know, folks. I feel bad for Alec Baldwin. Of course, our hearts and thoughts go out to the tragic passing of this woman, Helena Hutchins. Take care. See you guys later. God bless America.
I'm Al.